Hi, my name's Nicola Manos, and this presentation is going to be on lead battery recycling and pollution solutions from people in different fields of work that are non-health related. This is Global Environmental Science, Summer 2023. First, we will go into an intro into lead acid battery pollution problems. Then we will go into different solutions from 3 different professions. Then we will do alternatives to lead acid batteries. Next, we will do recycling projects done in lower and middle income countries. Then we'll do assessment and lessons learned. And finally, we will have summary and references. Before we go into solutions, we're going to go over the problems with lead battery recycling in lower middle income countries and associated health risks with lead. So the first problem with lead battery recycling plants is that they are placed in densely populated urban areas, and this leads to lead and smoke inhalations, which harms residents. And in these areas, there's usually more poor people, and they cannot escape the devastating consequences of the pollution. Next, there is recycling of materials is not done properly, and a lot of times the materials are left out, and children will unknowingly play on contaminated soil, or people will track it into their homes. And these recycling plants are usually done in open areas with little to no rules and regulations. And a third problem is the education regarding lead poisoning is very low in lower middle income countries. So people are unaware of the harmful consequences of lead poisoning and bring it into their homes, and make themselves and their families sick unknowingly. There are a few different impacts that lead can have on adults and children. The effects on children are more devastating though, because they're still growing and they have more chances to get lead into their body. But there can be behavioral problems, neurological problems, IQ problems, muscle and joint pain, chronic headaches and weakness, nausea, kidney damage, and a few others. So there's a lot of problems with lead poisoning. The first person I asked about giving solutions to the lead battery problem was Julia, and she works in the fashion industry, and her short-term solution was to create a recycling education program that would teach the people in lower middle income countries ways to reduce pollution from lead acid batteries, as well as educate them on the harm that lead pollution can cause. And her long-term goals or solution was to use a different source for batteries instead of lead. Later in the presentation, we will go over different materials that can be used for batteries besides lead, and which battery has the greatest potential in replacing lead acid batteries. Next, I asked Melanie, who has a political science background, also international relations, and her short-term goals were to send engineers and people to investigate plants that are not recycling properly as soon as possible, and at least try to fix those. Additionally, create a set of regulations for how much smoke and lead is allowed out into the air. And her long-term solutions were to relocate the plants farther away from populated areas and work towards figuring out a way to either recycle the lead batteries or find a safer alternative to replace lead batteries. When looking at Julia versus Melly's answer, it's interesting because both their short-term ideas are related to education, but Julia's approach involved going into the field or community and educating them, while Melanie's approach was more about policy and regulations. Since Melanie has a political science background, specifically with international relations, it makes sense her answer would be more about policy and changes within the government. The next person I asked for solutions to this problem was Anthony, and he works in HVAC, mechanical engineering. The short-term solutions he gave were find the recycling plants that are not adhering to safety guidelines until they implement guidelines, and start recycling correctly. In addition, work on getting the appropriate regulations passed. And then his long-term solutions were to move the lead battery plants away from densely populated areas and research new and more effective ways of recycling the material, possibly even incentivizing it. There are many alternatives to lead acid batteries, such as nickel cadmium, nickel metal hydride, nickel zinc, lithium ion, sodium sulfur, sodium nickel chloride, flow batteries, and ultracapacitors. There's all these different kinds of batteries, but lithium ion batteries are really the only type of battery right now that could replace lead acid batteries. However, further research needs to be done to achieve this. Most other batteries are too costly, have too low of a cycle life, or are difficult to create. Lithium-ion batteries are currently used in most cell phones and laptops because compared to other storage systems, they have a high energy per unit mass. Additionally, lithium-ion batteries have low self-discharge, high power to weight ratio, good high temperature performance, and high energy efficiency. Future research needs to focus on extending cycle life, reducing costs, and reducing the carbon footprint of lithium-ion batteries if they are to replace lead-acid batteries. These 6 different projects were done by an organization named Lead Battery 360 Degrees. The goal of this organization is to power a sustainable future by imposing high standards in terms of global recycling, raw materials, and battery sourcing and manufacturing. This organization focuses on lead batteries and all processes that encompass the production/manufacturing, usage, and recycling of the batteries. These 6 projects help decrease lead pollution and increase lead safety awareness in multiple different countries. The answers between the individuals from different professions were similar, but not the same. Julia's answer involved more of the community and field work. Melanie's answers were more about policy and regulations. Anthony's answer also included policy and regulations, but additionally, incentives and fines were a part of his answer. When looking at Anthony's ideas, I think they are an add-on or a way to enforce his own and Melanie's ideas of increased regulations and policies. Julia and Melanie both mentioned using a different resource, while Anthony talked about fixing the lead recycling process. I think all ideas made sense and might help decrease the lead pollution problem globally if all ideas were put together and enforced. Even though there have been some successes, such as the projects led by Lead Battery 360 Degrees, lead pollution still remains a large problem globally. There are other options for batteries besides lead, but lithium-ion batteries seem to be the only one right now that could potentially replace lead-acid batteries. Different professions produced different answers, but most answers were relatively the same. Thank you.